we're proposing to buy food and other supplies for war orphans in Ukraine via the purchase and delivery from clubs in Poland.
Correct.
So tell us about how that works and what your experiences were lately. Thank you.
Sure. I'm assuming you haven't seen our presentations at all, our video and slideshow and all that.
We saw that back in February when you were the speaker then.
Okay, great.
And I sent out, and you should have seen the two attachments I sent out
Yes.
to the club members. So they have seen other
Great.
information in the past, but that was the latest.
So, just to refresh your memory, what we do is raise money here in the US and we wire transfer that money to the Rotary Club of Zamash Ordinaki, which is a town, a city, an ancient walled city near the border between Poland and Ukraine. Their Rotarians lease a warehouse and purchase food, sleeping bags, generators, and other critical humanitarian aid items and store them in a warehouse. And then, about every 3 weeks, Rotary volunteer truck drivers drive convoys of trucks into Ukraine, across the border into Ukraine to safe houses, orphanages, and frontline villages in Ukraine. We join the convoys about every 2 to 3 months to reinforce those relationships with the Rotarians, to witness to them that we understand that they're putting their lives on the line to do this work, and that we are willing to do that too. We want to make sure that every receipt we get is equivalent to the expected goods in our warehouse. We double check that. And we also talk to the caregivers in the safe houses and orphanages to make sure we're being responsive to the children, that they're getting exactly what they need as the seasons change, as the war changes, and any other items that we need to add to our supply chain, we will. We also run a trauma counseling program for children whose fathers have been killed in the war. We take children from Ukraine, 30 to 35 each month. We take them into Poland for 3 weeks where they receive trauma counseling, group and individual therapy. They play, they swim, they hike, they enjoy the safety, the quiet. They enjoy all the food they can eat, and each other. They create networks of support with their peers, and then they return home to Ukraine following those retreats. Our waiting list is quite long. We could double our capacity. We have demand. We don't have the funding yet. One of our growth areas is to expand that trauma counseling and therapy to the caregivers, generally the widows of the fallen soldiers, the mothers of these children, or grandmothers in some cases. That's generally what we do. Our recent trip was in August. We're going again December 8th. So it was August, September. And we went to uh, an area between Odessa and Mykolaiv, which is in the very southern portion of the country, quite near to Crimea, just across the Black Sea. So Russia lobs bombs from Crimea onto Odessa and Mykolaiv. And then we traveled east to Kherson. And as you recall, Kherson was occupied for about 9 months by the Russians. And while they were there, they did a very thorough job of mining all the agricultural fields in that area and isolating people in villages. So we found people in these remote villages had been held captive there for 9 months with no electricity and no water and no supply chain for food or warmth. And so when we arrived this August, it was some of the first aid they had ever received. And of course, they were quite grateful. The travel was difficult because of the mining. Um, where you drive matters, where you walk matters. These people don't know how they're going to heat their homes. Many of them have been bombed. Their environment is much like New Hampshire, so they'll be frozen for 6 months, the next 6 months, and they don't have a heat source now. Their gas lines have been cut off. Mostly what we see in these villages is the very elderly and the very young. The fathers are all gone, of course. The fathers are off at war. And so what's left in these villages are very dependent people that need the help that we can provide. Trying to wonder what else you'd like to talk about. I can talk in great length about any part of that story. So, whatever questions you might have.
Has there been any effort to extract some of those folks from those dangerous areas?
Interestingly, when the war first began and we all watched people leave by train in mass from
Mhm.
Ukraine, the numbers are about 6 million people fled to Poland. Of that, 4.5 million have returned to Ukraine.
Mm,
Ukrainians want to be in Ukraine. They're confident they're going to win this war. This is their home. It it doesn't it it doesn't seem logical to me. I'll just talk personally. I don't understand why you're there when I go to these places. And
yeah.
but that's where grandma's peonies are. Even if the house is collapsed, that's where home is. So when we see them put a blue tarp on their roof in the face of winter and inquire. I mean, I ask these challenging questions. Why are you staying? This is our home. I've spent my whole life here. I'm not leaving. I'm Ukrainian. I will always be Ukrainian. I will never be Russian. I'm staying. I don't know how, if New Hampshire were attacked, I don't know if I would feel that way. But this is universally the sentiment we see. Now, the one thing they do is send their kids away. That's
Mhm.
why there's 2.5 million internally displaced children in Ukraine. So 2.5 million kids are hiding in safe houses and orphanages. And that's where the preponderance of our food goes. We're in contact with the Ukrainian military. They expedite our border crossing and they share with us the secret locations of these safe houses and orphanages. We have quite a reputation with the military. They understand that we can be trusted, that we're only bringing in food, sleeping bags, generators, and the like. And they're happy to get that information to us so we can take care of these kids. I will say it's if I didn't emphasize it enough, it's a miraculous testament of Rotary to me to see the dozens and dozens and dozens of Rotary volunteers who climb in trucks, who work in the warehouse first, and then climb in trucks, rented vans, borrowed cargo vans, and jump into a convoy with some maps, some two-way radios, a Ukrainian SIM card, and drive across that border to
Mhm.
unload food into the basements and the bomb shelters for kids no one knows. No one will probably ever know. Yet, we all wear Rotary vests and insignias and banners, and we are spreading messages of peace and support and love for these children. We like to think we're growing young Rotarians that someday when Ukraine is free and independent, that these kids will remember that somebody from the US came, somebody from Rotary came and brought a beanie baby or a solar lantern or just food.